Hello, this is an update for, what did I call it? SunChop version 1.7. VCom found a bug or two which I fixed and made a fairly decent suggestion how to fix the single sampler export, which 80% worked but needed some manual input afterwards. What they suggested was to put a template SunSynth file into the mix and use that. So that's what I've done, and so now the thing works. The downside to it is you now need to have that template file, which obviously I'll provide, sat in the same folder as the SunChop application, because it pulls the template that it squirts the samples out from that. I don't like doing that, but it seems to be the only way to do it. So when we now very poorly chop a sample up like so, it's already in single sampler mode, look chromatic. So if I hit E for export, let's download it into the right folder where I can find it. So I want to go to desktop, where I'm saving things at the moment, into Pixilang 3 bin, just where I can find everything all together. Slap it in there. Okay, go to Sunvox and load it up. Sliced loop. Okay. So now it works. It sounds like that because of the terrible chops. But here we can see, look. So each slice is there on the correct note. It maps up the keyboard from C5 up to the top, which gives about 50 slice capability, something like that. So that's a fix. Let's clear all of those chops. What else have we done? We've added in, again, request, slightly different, I won't call it a detection mode, but a different way of putting slices in here. F12, I think I made, was it? It's all in a manual, which I'll show in a minute. F12 toggles at the top there between, see that white text changing there between sensitivity and grid. So sensitivity is the normal mode that as you saw before. So you change the sensitivity of plus minus, and then it'll do transient detection. If you change to grid mode, then it will put, when you hit the D key, it will put a grid directly of 16th note chops on there. It does put them to 0 points, but as you can see, as I said to VCom when I did it, if you do this with something that's not perfectly quantized, you are going to get like that with a clip at the end of it. So it's a tool for doing, perfectly quantized loops with into exact chops. If you want to not have those sort of noises, and the kick's all right, that's where it does. I mean, normally you see you wouldn't chop it there because there's some of the kick there as well. Look. Chop should be there, shouldn't it? In fact, even you get the transient to the snare there. So it all depends on the loop. So that can go from, I can't remember what I've done it at now. It's 16th notes, 32nd notes I did. So we now have that. We now have another export mode as well, which is came out of the discussion when the template version was thought about. I said, well, how about this version as well? Because I was planning on doing it. So hitting the M key now, past the multiple samplers and the WAV files only, we then get multiple samples plus filters, and that's not audio filters, that's note filters. So hit E for export again. Let's call it slice loop again. Load it into the old Sunvox load. So that will send the pattern through to the note router. These are the note filters, so each one of these basically sets velocity to 0 apart from the target note, which it lets through to the slice. So that will let you then still mash on the keys as you would with a single sampler on that. But then give you the flexibility of affecting each sample, mixing it, EQing it, whatever you want to do, completely individually. Obviously with this one, if you want to pitch a sample in a pattern, this only filters and everything at root pitch. So if you want to pitch something, then you put notes in your pattern directly to the sample and do it like that, as you would normally. I've also added like a traditional sampler pitch. It's not really pitch shift, i.e., when you load a sample into a sampler and play it on a different key, or key K for classic. So it's pitching it up, you know, same as you would in the sampler or DJ decks. It's actually resampling, and you can do this in Sunvox anyway, but with this, I haven't used spline interpolation, which is really good, a different method, and no anti-alias, whereby crunch that's now been introduced into the hats is basically aliasing. But if you want sort of crunchy house loops and things like that, especially in hard house, for your sort of chunky hard house. What else? Oh yeah, in the previous video I didn't show loop mode. If you put a load of slices in, I'll just hit take the sense, go to sense mode, back to there, take the sensitivity down, 16 hit D. Right, put a load of these in. If you hit O, that's loop mode. So what it does is it adds a loop, a zero crossing point, somewhere near the end of the sample, like the nearest one to the end of the, like so. When that exports into the samples, the sample will be looped as well. So it's kind of another variant on like the time stretch modes and things like that, you know, when you're slowing it down, but also same as the time stretch mode, it's not necessarily for that, it's for adding effect to the note. You can move these obviously, so if you want to do that, or whatever you want to do with it. Sort of thing we used to do before we had time stretching at all, you know. Try and get away with it. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. It really, it's the same as the you know, the gaps mode stretches. The gaps modes, obviously, when I demonstrated them last time, I went down to quite a low BPM, so therefore those BPMs, the stretching's not great. They're really meant for, you know, when you're only slowing something down, maybe 4 or 5 BPM tops, just to fill those little gaps in that you might get. Also now, is that all that went in? Can't remember now. What else was I asked for, and what have I done? Let me just check on the Sunvox forum. So what did we get? You can use pre-made SunSynth, yes. Undo doesn't seem to work on adding or deleting slices. No, it doesn't need to. If you accidentally add a slice, delete it again, and vice versa. Arrow key functionality, all explained in the manual. Nice, you could detect window resize. Oh yeah, you can now resize. Silly me forgetting that. You can resize the Pixilang window now, you know, by grabbing it and resizing it. Actually, on my computer at the minute, I can't, because you can see how it goes over the taskbar at the bottom, and I don't like hiding it. If I set it to hide and grab it, I can reduce it in size on the screen to get it to a different size. The Windows Manager itself sets minimum size on apps as far as I'm aware, and so I can't set a minimum size on it, so you can get to the point where it goes stupidly small up here, and if you go too small, the text will start moving over the graphic. But you know, up to about that sort of size that I'm mapping out there with the mouse, you can go to and work on a smaller screen if you want to have it to the side of Sunvox or something like that. What else was I asked for? Along with transient detection, ability to slice set, yes, did that. Can you change the base BPM? I explained that. Feel like slice addition deletion shouldn't work if the cursor isn't in the sample preview area. That was a bug. Fixed it. Could I be more clear on how the quantize applies in the Sunvox export? Could you automatically quantize the slice points in the program? Why? No. Pointless. I did think he was asking me about quantizing the audio actually by setting the slice points and then quantizing the audio to them or to a grid, like to a transient. I kind of thought about doing that, and I thought it's really duplicating functionality, that, because we're setting slice points, we're slicing the audio up, and then we have the option of quantizing the slices within that pattern when we export it. What happens is with quantize mode, it doesn't quantize the audio, it quantizes the pattern that we're exporting. Currently quantize is off precise, so in the export you see all of these have got note delays on them, so because they're not precisely, you know, slap bang on a 16th note, if you tell it to quantize, it will put slices to the nearest division of a beat that you've set it to, is what it does. And the granular, bigger the resolution size that you choose, particularly with well, both modes, you get more accuracy in, you know, how near to the correct beat the thing goes. Higher the resolution, particularly on the non-quantized one, is good, because then you'll get it very precise with the note delays. And that's about it. Also in the upload is a manual, which I hope it had a few errors in it earlier today. It may still do. Quite a comprehensive manual, tells you how everything works, and obviously another mention at the very top about the rubber band dependency that you need to install if you want the sort of the phase vocoder time stretch to work. And that's it.